In this video, we're going to continue straight on from the last one and start learning about some basic commands for Stata once we've uploaded our data into Stata. So you'll see I've just opened Stata. There's nothing in it. And I have my do file up from last time, starting by setting the directory, opening up the do file, and using our basic command summarize, which gives us summary statistics. So I want to go over a few more commands today, starting with the stem and leaf plot. So let's say we want to get a stem and leaf plot for score. So we're going to write that in, get a stem and leaf plot for score. And that command is very simple, stem score. So we can run this entire thing. And now we have perhaps not the most interesting stem and leaf plot we've ever seen, but a stem and leaf plot nonetheless, in addition to all of our prior steps. So we can see how easy it is using the do file to add on to our analysis and go deeper. Let's say we wanted a histogram of score. Can create a histogram of score. This is going to be another easy to remember command, histogram score. So we could run the entire thing again. It wouldn't take very long, but in a do file, you could also just select this line and just run that. Okay. Here we go, a histogram for score. Again, not a particularly interesting one, but it's because we're dealing with 5 observations in our data set. Let's say we wanted, let's close that. Let's say we wanted a box plot. Create a box plot of score. So this is going to be graph box score. Let's run that. Okay, now so when we're looking through these, we might think, well, this is probably the one that's clearest if we're going to choose one for a paper. And let's say we did want to use this in our paper, in our assignment. There's 2 ways to get it into Microsoft Word. One would be simply to hit copy up here, go into Microsoft Word, new document, or put it in your homework. We'll say, here is my box plot of score, and then you can simply paste it right on in. So that's one way. Works pretty well when you have a small number of charts. But there's another way if you want to do that through the do file. Right after we do this command graph box, we can have a second command called graph export. And what this is going to do is export our image as a file to the exact same folder that we set up for our working directory. So you can imagine this would be really useful if you have 10 different graphs. You can automatically have Stata generate 10 different files for you that you can then look through and then drag into Microsoft Word. So let's call this one, so we do graph export, we give it a name, we'll call it boxplot, and then dot, you give it an extension such as JPEG, PNG. I like EPS because it's very high resolution but very low size. So when you're dealing with a lot of images, your Word documents won't become gigantic. Boxplot.eps. So now if we do this, we run this command, we can go into our analysis folder, and now there's this file called boxplot.eps, which we could also drag into Microsoft Word. So we get the same outcome, but here it's more automated for a larger sequence of steps. So let's expand that a little bit. Let's graph export now our histogram, and we'll call this histogram.eps. So let's run this again. So we'll have to create the histogram again, and you have to run the graph export command right after. So let's hit do. So we're going to generate the histogram, and now it's going to export that histogram to our folder. So we can now drag this. Here is my histogram of score. We could now drag this into our Word document. There we go. So a few more details before we wrap up today. So this, probably looks pretty good. We're off to a good start, but there's a few idiosyncrasies of Stata that we should know about if we're going to run this code again. So for example, if I ran this code again, okay, I got the histogram, and then it stops, and we get an error. It says, file histogram.eps already exists. Well, that's true because we ran the code before. We've already created this file here, so Stata is running into an error saying, well, you already have this file histogram. What should I do? So the best solution here, and it's very simple, is we simply add a comma after this and write replace, which will mean it's going to overwrite that file. Replace. So now we run this again, and now we have no problems running through the entire code. And this way, if you make an update to your graph, you change the color, you change the scale, whatever, you'll always have the most recent version in your folder. So you can see we've run our do file. We've generated these two graphs. We've looked at some summary statistics and some other graphs. And now we know how to get started with some of these basic things, basic commands in Stata.